The virgin bride runs through the dust, never looking back. Behind her, a fate imposed by a cruel stepmother. But an Apache sees her on the path, and what he decides to do changes everything. Subscribe to our channel and discover how an unexpected encounter can transform lives forever. The silver pickup truck gleamed under the scorching heat of the backlands, parked in the dry dirt yard of the small property with its doors open and the engine still warm. Inside, Colonel Euclides waited with his dark glasses and the smell of cologne too expensive for those parts of the Bahian countryside. Beside the mud house, Louisa, an 18-year-old girl, walked hesitantly with downcast eyes, wearing a floral dress hastily put on and barefoot on the hot ground. It wasn't a celebration nor a choice, it was a delivery. Nusa, the stepmother, adjusted the hem of the girl's dress like someone arranging merchandise. The deal had been closed days before. The young woman would be handed over to the wealthy landowner from the neighboring region in exchange for settling the debts her deceased father had left behind and promises of comfort for the family. They said he was a widower, owner of 3 farms with a big house in town and a respected name in the banks. But the truth hung in the air like dust in the dry season. Clutching a worn rag doll was Anina, her 6-year-old sister, who observed everything with frightened eyes, holding back tears like someone who had learned too early not to show weakness. "Is Louisa leaving, Mother?" asked the little one with a trembling voice. Nusa merely signaled for her to be quiet. At the moment she approached the open door of the pickup truck, Louisa stopped. Her eyes met Anina's. The world went quiet, and then she ran. Barefoot, without direction, she cut across the dirt yard, like someone seeking water in the middle of the Caatinga. The colonel shouted, the stepmother cursed, but she didn't look back. Among the dry Jurema trees in the distance, a cowboy was coming down the trail toward the market. Tiao, a man of few words, raised in the lands of the Remanso Quilombo, saw the figure in the floral dress fleeing, heard the shouts in the background, and knew. Without thinking, he turned his horse and advanced. When they met, she simply extended her hand. He pulled her up with a single gesture and rode away. They took the cowboy's trail, an ancient path used for generations by those who knew where the Mandakaru cactus indicated passage. Anina, who had run to the fence, saw her sister disappear into the dust. She clutched the doll to her chest and promised herself, "I'll find you, Louisa." The Quilombo received them in a state of alert. Simple but dignified houses, arranged in a circle, with a central yard where a centuries-old jatoba tree gave shade to the Council of Elders. Tiao explained little, but it was enough. Louisa could barely speak. Her feet were bleeding. Her dress was torn. Donna Zephyr, the most respected among the women, took her inside, cleaned her wounds with arera water, warmed her hands with chamomile tea. For the first time, she was heard without being interrupted. "My father died 3 months ago," said Louisa between sobs. "The stepmother said the debts would take our land, that there was only one way." Donna Zephyr merely nodded, her wise eyes understanding more than the words conveyed. "And Anina?" asked the old lady. "My little sister stayed behind. I couldn't." "Bring her. She's all that matters to me in this world." The tears now flowed uncontrollably. Outside, Tiao was talking with Seu Benedito, the oldest in the Quilombo. "The colonel will come," said the old man. "He has gunmen, is friends with the sheriff, has signed papers." Tiao merely adjusted his leather hat. Paper doesn't speak louder than people. That night, while Louisa slept without fear for the first time in days, the news spread through the Quilombo. The colonel had given a week's deadline for the girl's return. After that, he would come to claim what he believed was rightfully his, and he wouldn't come alone. In the stepmother's house, Anina refused to sleep. Sitting on the mat, she looked out the window, counting stars and making promises to the wind. Nusa grumbled around the house, lamenting the lost chance to get rid of the debts. "That ungrateful girl will come back," she shouted, "and she'll learn to respect agreements." The next morning, while the rooster hadn't even dreamed of crowing, Anina took her doll, a handful of flour she had saved from dinner, and left without making a sound. She knew the way to the market. From there, she would ask about the Remanso Quilombo. Small as she was, she went unnoticed on the trails that cut through the Caatinga. The sun was rising, orange-colored, when the first thorns began to hurt her feet. But she didn't stop. At the Quilombo, Luisa was helping the women in the community garden. Her hands, once delicate, now worked the soil with determination. Tian passed by occasionally, bringing water, observing from a distance. They didn't talk much, but their glances said what words couldn't reach. "He was never one for much conversation," commented Donna Zephyr, smiling knowingly. "But since you arrived, he's been finding reasons to pass by here." Luisa lowered her eyes, feeling her face flush. "He saved me, that's all." The old woman laughed, her wrinkles forming a map of wisdom. "Salvation is sometimes just the beginning of the story, my child." The sun was already high when a shout cut through the air. "There's a little girl collapsed on the stream trail." Luisa felt her heart stop. She dropped the hoe and ran as she had never run before. When she saw the small body stretched out under the sparse shade of an umbuzero tree, she knew. "A niña!" The cry came out as both prayer and desperation. The girl was breathing weakly, her skin hot with fever, her lips dry from thirst. In her small hands, she still clutched the rag doll. "I came to find you," she whispered, before closing her eyes. Again. And so, when the fourth day dawned, the deadline given by the colonel was already half over, and in the Quilombo, two sisters were fighting together against time. Donna Zephyr spent the night awake, preparing teas, compresses, and prayers to lower Anina's fever. The girl was delirious, calling for her sister and for her father, who was no longer among them. Luisa didn't leave the little one's side for a moment, moistening her parched lips, holding her hot hands, singing lullabies their mother had taught them before departing this world. "I should have brought her with me," Luisa repeated, her heart heavy with guilt. "I didn't know she would come after me, alone through the Caatinga." Tiao entered silently, bringing fresh fruits and a small mug of goat's milk. His eyes met Luisa's, conveying strength without words. "Everything will be all right," he said simply. He was a man of gestures, not speeches. He placed his hand on the girl's shoulder for a moment, brief as a hummingbird's flight, but enough to calm the storm within her. When the sun rose, the news arrived like an ill wind. Colonel Euclides was gathering men in town. He had offered a reward for whoever found the sisters. "He says he has papers," explained Seu Benedito at the council meeting. "Says the girl's father signed a document handing over the eldest as payment for debt." The women of the Quilombo looked at each other, indignant. "People are not merchandise," Donna Zephyr said firmly, "not even in the time of our enslaved ancestors." Was this just let alone now? Tiao, leaning against the trunk of the jatoba tree, maintained the thoughtful silence that characterized him. His eyes, however, revealed the internal storm. He had grown up hearing stories from the elders about how his people had fought for freedom, for dignity. It wouldn't be in his generation that they would see someone treated as property again. "I have cousins in the Serra das Almas Quilombo," he finally said. "It's a 2-day journey. No one would look for them there." The elders considered the proposal, but Seu Benedito shook his head. "If they run, they'll always be fugitives, and the little one can't handle a long journey in this state." Silence weighed like lead. That's when Luisa's voice emerged at Donna Zephyr's doorway. "I won't run anymore." Everyone turned. She was standing, her hair braided, her gaze different from when she had arrived. She was no longer the frightened girl, but a determined woman. "This land welcomed me and my sister. I won't bring misfortune to you, nor live on the run. I'll face the colonel." A murmur ran through the assembly. Tiao stepped forward, concern evident on his usually impassive face. "He's not a man who accepts no for an answer, Luisa." She held his gaze. "Nor am I a woman who accepts being sold." Anina's fever broke at dusk. The girl opened her eyes, finding her sister's face. "You didn't leave," she whispered, her voice still weak. Luisa smiled, arranging the little one's hair. "I'll never leave you again. I promise." Anina hugged the rag doll to her chest. "Juju protected us." Donna Zephyr entered with a bowl of milk porridge. "Your doll has power, little one. It kept your spirit safe on the journey." Anina smiled, proud. She's magic made by my mother." While the girl ate slowly, regaining her strength, outside Tiao and other men from the Quilombo discussed strategies. The deadline given by the colonel would expire in 3 days. "He'll come with the sheriff and gunmen," warned one of the younger men, who had returned from town with information. "They say he's even hired outside thugs." Tiao looked at the horizon, calculating possibilities. "I don't want war," he said, "but we won't hand anyone over either." That night, while Anina slept a more peaceful sleep, Louisa went out to breathe fresh air. She found Tiao sitting under the jatoba tree, carving a small piece of wood with his pocket knife. She approached unhurriedly and sat beside him. For a long moment, only the sound of the knife against the wood filled the silence. "What are you making?" she finally asked. He showed her the small object taking shape. "A horse." "For your sister," he answered simply. To remember how she got here. Louisa felt her heart warm. This man of few words said so much with gestures. "Why did you help me that day?" she asked, the question that hadn't left her mind since the escape. Tiao continued carving, thoughtful. "My grandmother was sold 7 times before escaping and founding this Quilombo," he finally said. "She taught me that freedom is not a favor you ask for, it's a right you take." His hands paused for a moment. "When I saw you running, I recognized the same courage." They sat in silence, the stars making ancient designs in the sky. They didn't need more words. The distance between them diminished without them having to move. The next day, Seu Benedito gathered the entire Quilombo. The children were taken to the most distant fields as a precaution. The men checked tools that could serve as defense. The women prepared remedies for possible injuries. "We don't want violence," the elder repeated, "but we'll be ready." Donna Zephyr, while organizing her herbs and ointments, called Louisa over. "Sit here, child." The young woman obeyed, watching the wrinkled hands separate leaves and roots with precision. "There's more than one kind of strength," said the old woman. "The colonel's comes from money and the fear he plants. Ours comes from the land and from truth." Her eyes met Louisa's. "Which do you think lasts longer?" The girl thought about her father, a good man who had allowed himself to be bent by difficulties, until signing a paper that sold his own daughter's future. She thought about her stepmother, embittered by the hard life, seeking an easy way out at the expense of others. She thought about Tiao, who had risked everything for a stranger, simply because it was the right thing to do. "The truth," she finally answered. Donna Zephyr smiled, satisfied. "Then that's what we'll fight with." At the end of that day, as the sun began to retreat, a distant commotion announced unexpected visitors. It wasn't the colonel or his men. It was a smaller entourage. Stepmother Nusa, accompanied by the sheriff and 2 policemen. They came before the deadline, on a reconnaissance mission. The entire Quilombo gathered in the central yard. Tiao positioned himself beside Louisa, who held Anina by the hand. The little one, still weak, clutched the rag doll to her chest like a shield. When Nusa saw the 2 sisters, her face contorted between relief and anger. "Do you have any idea of the problem you've caused, ungrateful girl?" she fired. "The colonel is furious. He's going to take our land now." The sheriff, a middle-aged man with an ill-trimmed mustache, stepped forward. "I have a warrant to take the 2 of them back," he announced, pulling a paper from his pocket. "The younger one is under the stepmother's guardianship, and the older one has a commitment contract to fulfill." So Benedito stepped forward, his presence emanating authority despite his advanced age. "In my land, Sheriff, we don't negotiate people as merchandise. These papers have no value here." The officer narrowed his eyes. "This is Brazil, old man. The law applies everywhere." That's when Donna Zephyr came forward, with a small bundle in her hands. "The law also says that children must be protected. Look at this girl," she pointed to Anina. She almost died crossing the Caatinga alone to find the sister who didn't want to abandon her. She opened the bundle, revealing the girl's small feet, still marked by wounds from the thorns. "This is the law we respect first." For a moment, the sheriff seemed to hesitate, his human gaze overlaying his official one. But Nusa advanced, impatient. "Enough talk, we're taking both of them now." The colonel is coming the day after tomorrow to settle accounts with all of you for hiding what's his." It was then that Anina, who until that moment had remained silent, stepped forward. With the courageous simplicity of children, she extended her ragdoll to the sheriff. "My mother made juju before she went to heaven. She said that as long as I had juju, no one would separate me from Louisa." Her large eyes faced the man without fear. "Would you want someone to take your daughter away?" The sheriff swallowed hard, looking at the simple doll, then at the sisters. Something changed in his countenance. He slowly put the paper back in his pocket. "I'll return with the colonel at the agreed deadline," he finally said. "Until then, think carefully about what you're doing." He turned around, ignoring nooses, protests, and mounted his horse. The two policemen followed him, clearly relieved to postpone the confrontation. The stepmother, left behind, looked at her stepdaughters with mixed hatred and desperation. "You don't understand," she said, her voice almost breaking. "He's going to take everything." Louisa held her gaze. "He already took everything when Father signed that paper. He just won't take me too." As the stepmother departed, escorted by one of the Quilombo men, to the main road, Tiao approached Louisa. "The sheriff will come back," he said quietly, "and he won't be so willing to listen next time." She nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the visitors were disappearing. "Then we have a day to find another way." The sun was setting, red as embers, announcing that the storm would come. In the heart of the Quilombo, however, something new was beginning to be born. Not just resistance, but the seed of an idea that could change everything. Night fell over the Quilombo like a heavy mantle of stars. While Anina slept, Louisa, Tiao, Seu Benedito, and Dona Zefa gathered in the council house. An oil lamp cast dancing shadows on the mud walls. "The colonel has the papers," said Seu Benedito, his voice tired. "For their law, that might be enough." Dona Zefa shook her head, discontented. "Law made to protect the powerful isn't justice, it's offense." Tiao, leaning against the wall, kept his arms crossed. "We need help from outside," he finally said. "Someone who understands their papers but defends our side." Louisa, who until then had been listening in silence, raised her face. "My father once told me about a lawyer in Juazeiro, a man who helped families when the dam flooded their lands." The eyes of those present turned to her. "But how do we get to Juazeiro before the deadline?" asked Seu Benedito. "It's many leagues from here." Tiao uncrossed his arms, determined. "I'll go. I can ride all night and arrive by dawn." The old Quilombola frowned. "And if you don't find this man? Or if he doesn't want to come?" A heavy silence fell over the group. It was Dona Zefa who spoke, her voice carrying the wisdom of the many winters she had witnessed. "There is another way out, one that doesn't depend on any paper." Everyone looked at her, expectant. The old woman smiled, enigmatic. "The colonel wants the land of Louisa's family to expand his pastures. He wants the girl out of vanity and power. But what if he lost interest in both?" Louisa frowned, confused. "What do you mean, Dona Zefa?" The elder leaned forward, the lamplight highlighting the deep wrinkles that marked her face like ancient rivers. "What a man fears most, my child, is not losing money, it's losing face. Respect." As the night progressed, a plan took shape as bold as the resistance stories that the Quilombo kept in its collective memory. At dawn, Tiao departed for Juazeiro, not to seek the lawyer, but to spread news that would travel faster than a horse. The story of how the great Colonel Euclides was trying to buy a bride by force against her will and that of an entire community. Of how a child had crossed the Caatinga alone to save her sister. Of how papers signed under coercion were being used to threaten honest people. "Markets are the best places to spread stories," said Dona Zefa before he left. "And churches, and the stores where men drink cachaça." Her plan was simple and ancient. Make shame arrive before the colonel could act. In the small house where the sisters took shelter, Anina played with the rag doll and the wooden horse that Tiao had given her. Still weak from the journey and the fever, she remained quiet, observing everything with eyes too attentive for her age. "When are we going back home, Louisa?" she suddenly asked. The older sister sat beside her, caressing her hair. "I don't know if we can go back, little one." The girl hugged the doll tightly. but Mother is buried there, and her things too. Luisa felt her heart tighten. She hadn't thought of that. The few memories of her mother, kept in a wooden box under the bed, yellowed photographs, a rosary of blue beads, letters never sent. One day we'll go back to get them, she promised, without knowing if she could fulfill it. Outside, the Quilombo prepared, not with weapons, but with dignity. The women sewed their best clothes, the men cleaned the yard and the council house. If we're going to face power, let it be with our heads held high, said Seu Benedito. At sunset, an unexpected figure appeared on the main trail. Father Geronimo, from the parish of São José do Belmonte, accompanied by 2 teachers from the municipal school. They came on foot, carrying a folder with documents. "We heard what's happening," said the priest as he was received by Seu Benedito. "We've come to witness and to help." One of the teachers, a young man with glasses, stepped forward. "I teach history. I know this Quilombo has territorial rights, and I also know that contracts like the one they made with Luisa's father can be contested for coercion." The other, older, nodded. "And I teach human rights. No one can be treated as property." Their arrival brought new hope. Donna Zefa's plan was already taking effect. The news had spread, reaching the ears of people who could make a difference. While they talked in the council house, more visitors arrived. Farmers from neighboring sites, merchants from the market, even a councilman from a nearby district. "The people are outraged," explained the councilman. "Nobody wants a colonel from the last century ruling our lands." At night, the Quilombo looked different. Lanterns and oil lamps dotted the yard, where now dozens of people talked, planned, offered support. Luisa observed everything from the doorway, a Niña asleep in her arms. She felt a mixture of gratitude and fear. What if all this only worsened the colonel's fury? What if innocent people got hurt because of her? Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a horseman. Tiao was returning from Huazero, his face marked by the fatigue of the journey, but his eyes shining with determination. Seeing the movement in the Quilombo, he smiled, a rare smile that transformed his serious face. "Looks like the news really spread," he commented, dismounting near Luisa. She nodded, trying to contain the emotion at seeing him return safe. "And sound. What did they say in Huazero?" Tiao approached, lowering his voice. "The judge there knows the colonel. He knows his history. He promised to send a justice official tomorrow to verify the situation." He ran his hand through his hair, a rare gesture of nervousness. "But the colonel is already on his way here with his men. I crossed paths with people on the road who saw them preparing weapons." A chill ran through Luisa. "So it won't help? He arrives before justice does?" Tione looked at the yard, at the people gathered in solidarity. "Justice is already here, Luisa, in more ways than one." The deadline would expire the next morning. No one slept in the Quilombo that night. The children were taken to the most distant point of the community, protected by the older women. Only a Niña stayed, refusing to separate from her sister. "Juju says we have to stay together," she insisted, with the stubbornness that only children possess. Father Geronimo organized a vigil, with prayers and songs that echoed in the night like an invisible shield. The teachers and the councilmen drafted documents, collecting signatures from all those present as witnesses. Donna Zefa prepared teas to keep everyone awake and alert. At the center of it all, almost without realizing it, Luisa had become a symbol. No longer just the girl who had fled, but the representation of a greater, older resistance. "It's always like this," commented Seu Benedito, sitting beside her under the jatoba tree. "Our struggle is never just our own. We carry the dreams of those who came before and those who will come after." In the early morning, when the stars began to pale, Tiao found Luisa alone, looking at the horizon where day would break. He approached in silence, respecting her space. "Are you afraid?" he finally asked. She didn't take her eyes off the brightening sky. "Yes, but not for myself." She turned to face him. "For all of you. For a Niña." He took a step closer, reducing the distance between them. "No one here is doing anything they didn't choose to do, Luisa." His eyes met hers, conveying a quiet certainty. "Including me." The moment was interrupted by the warning shout, "They're coming! Many men on horseback!" The entire Quilombo mobilized. People took positions not with weapons but with dignity. They formed a semicircle in the yard facing the main trail. In front, Seu Benedito and Father Geronimo. Right behind, the teachers, the councilmen and other influential visitors. And then, all the quilombolas and supporters, forming a single, indivisible body. Luisa took her place at the center, a Niña at her side firmly holding her small hand. Tião remained close, attentive to any movement. The sun was rising when the colonel's entourage appeared on the trail. At the front, mounted on an imposing sorrel horse, came Euclides Mendonça, a middle-aged man in an impeccable suit despite the road dust, a felt hat shading cold eyes. Behind him at least 20 men, some uniformed as security guards from his farm, others clearly hired thugs. The sheriff came at his side, visibly uncomfortable with the situation. And, a surprise to everyone, Nusa was also there, mounted, on a skinny mare, her face contorted between fear and resentment. The colonel pulled the reins, stopping a few meters from the human semicircle. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found Luisa. A humorless smile curved his lips. "I see you've found defenders, girl, but I have papers signed by your father." He waved a leather folder in the air, "and the law is on my side." Seu Benedito stepped forward, leaning on his Jurema staff. "The law doesn't allow buying people, Colonel. Those times have passed." The man laughed, a dry sound like a breaking branch. "I'm not buying anyone, old man. I'm collecting a legitimate debt in the way it was." "Agreed." Father Geronimo then stepped forward. "Coercion is not agreement, Mr. Euclides, and what you propose goes against the laws of God and men." The colonel narrowed his eyes, irritated by the church's interference. The sheriff cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the crowd of witnesses. This would not be a simple operation to recover property, as the colonel had promised. "We are here only to fulfill a warrant," he said, without much conviction. That's when a Niña, still holding her sister's hand, stepped forward. Her big eyes fixed on the colonel without fear, only curiosity. "Why do you want to take my sister? She doesn't want to go." The simplicity of the question caught everyone by surprise. The colonel, unaccustomed to being questioned, especially by a child, hesitated for a moment. "This is grown-up business, girl." A Niña didn't back down. "But it's about her," she insisted, pointing to Luisa. "And about me, too. We can't be separated, Mother promised." The silence that followed was broken by the sound of horse hooves. A smaller group was approaching by the same trail. 3 well-dressed men, one of them carrying a folder similar to the colonel's. "Justice official," announced the man in front. "I come by order of the judge of the district to verify complaints about a coercive contract and threats to a traditional community." The colonel's face paled. His plan of intimidation was crumbling before everyone's eyes. The presence of the justice official, the priest, the councilman, the teachers, and so many witnesses transformed what would be a simple demonstration of power into a potential scandal. The cards were on the table, and the sun, now fully risen, illuminated the beginning of a new day in the Quilombo. Colonel Euclides dismounted from his horse with calculated movements, adjusting his jacket like someone preparing for a difficult negotiation. His expression had changed, from confident authoritarianism to strategic caution. "Justice official," he greeted with a tense nod. "It wasn't necessary to trouble the judge. We're just resolving a private agreement." The official, a middle-aged man with a severe expression, wasn't intimidated. "An agreement that involves the guardianship of minors and the transfer of a young woman as payment isn't exactly private, Mr. Mendonça." He approached with his 2 assistants, who were already taking out notebooks to record testimonies. "I'll need to hear all parties involved." A murmur of approval ran through the crowd. Luisa felt momentary relief, soon replaced by apprehension. She knew the colonel wouldn't give up easily. He was known for always getting what he wanted, whether by legal means or not. Donna Zephyr approached, positioning herself beside the sisters, like a silent guardian. "Now is the time to speak your truth, my child," she whispered to Luisa, without fear. The justice official organized an improvised hearing under the jatoba tree. On one side, the colonel with his papers, the visibly uncomfortable sheriff, and Nusa, who avoided looking at her stepdaughters. On the other, Luisa and Anina, supported by Tiao, Dona Zefa, and Seu Benedito. The teachers, the priest, and the councilman positioned themselves as neutral observers, while the rest of the community formed a respectful circle around them. "Let's start with the documents," said the official, extending his hand to the colonel. Euclides handed over a leather folder from which the man removed stamped papers. "We have here a debt acknowledgement signed by José Carlos Ferreira, deceased 3 months ago," he read aloud, "and a debt settlement agreement through the marriage of his daughter Luisa Ferreira to the creditor, Mr. Euclides Mendonça." He raised his eyes, the discomfort evident on his face. "This type of document has no legal validity, Mr. Mendonça. People cannot be offered as payment." The colonel smiled, confident. "It's not payment, sir. It's a matrimonial agreement, perfectly legal. The father granted his daughter's hand, and in exchange, as a wedding gift, I would forgive the family's debt." One of the assistants continued, noting everything down quickly. The official turned to Luisa. "Miss, were you aware of this agreement? Did you agree to it at any point?" Luisa took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all eyes on her. "No, sir. I only found out when my stepmother told me to pack my bags, that I was going to marry the colonel." Her voice gained firmness as she spoke. "My father was ill in his last months. After my mother died, he was never the same. He would sign any paper put in front of him." The official nodded, making notes. "And regarding the minor, who is her legal guardian?" Nusa stepped forward. "I am the stepmother. The father left both of them under my responsibility." Anina, who until then had been quiet, squeezed Luisa's hand more tightly. "She wanted to leave me alone. She sent my sister away." Her big eyes accused without mercy. "When Luisa ran away, she didn't even come looking for me. I had to cross the bush alone." A murmur of indignation ran through the crowd. Father Geronimo stepped forward then. "If I may, sir, I would like to testify about the condition in which we found the child. She had a high fever, was dehydrated. With feet injured by thorns, she had to be treated for days to recover." The official made more notes, his countenance increasingly grave. "Mr. Mendonça, were you aware that this young woman did not consent to the marriage?" The colonel adjusted his hat, maintaining his posture. "Women always get nervous before marriage. It's natural. But I'm sure that with time she would understand it was best for everyone." Tiao, who until then had remained silent, stepped forward. "Best for everyone or for you? Everyone knows that the Ferreira land is the only one left for you to control all the water of the Bom Jesus stream." The comment provoked a murmur. It was true that the colonel had for years been acquiring all properties along the stream, a vital source of water for the region. With the Ferreira land, he would have complete control over the most precious resource in the backlands. The councilman then spoke up. "Sir, there are complaints that Colonel Mendonça has been illegally damming the stream on his lands, harming small farmers downstream. Perhaps that should be investigated too." The colonel's face hardened. His plan was crumbling, and now other issues were coming to light. "This is an ambush," he protested. "I just came to claim what's rightfully mine." It was then that Seu Benedito, with the wisdom of his many years, stood up, supported by his Jurema staff. "Colonel," he said in a calm voice, but firm enough to silence everyone, "in my 90 years I've seen many men like you, men who confuse paper with justice, power with right." He slowly walked to the center of the circle. "You have land, you have money, you have gunmen. But do you know what you don't have?" He paused, his ancient eyes fixed on the colonel's. "True, a respect, the kind that can't be bought or imposed, the kind that is earned." The silence that followed was almost palpable. Anina, with the disconcerting innocence of children, broke it. She approached the colonel, still holding her rag doll. "You're alone," she said simply. "We have a whole family." She pointed to the circle of people around. "We don't need paper to know who is family." The child's words, in their crystalline simplicity, had the effect of a revelation. The colonel, looked around at his hired men who now looked uncomfortable, at the sheriff who avoided his gaze, at Noosa who seemed to wither with each moment. Perhaps for the first time, he realized the contrast between his formal power and the genuine strength of that united community. The justice official cleared his throat, resuming speech. "Based on what I've seen and heard, I determine the immediate suspension of any attempt to execute this matrimonial agreement." He leafed through some documents. As for the financial debt, it should be renegotiated in fair terms without involving people as currency. And regarding the guardianship of the minor, he looked at the sisters. "I will recommend to the judge that provisional custody be granted to the older sister with the support of this community until a formal hearing can be held." Noosa protested weakly, but her words sounded empty in the face of evidence of neglect. The colonel, realizing the situation was lost, tried to save appearances. "It was never my intention to cause suffering," he said, adjusting his jacket. "I just wanted to fulfill the agreement made with a friend before his departure." No one believed him, but no one contradicted him either. It wasn't necessary. His power there had already been broken, not by force, but by something much more powerful, the truth exposed to the light of day. When the official finished noting his determinations and those present began to sign as witnesses, the colonel mounted his horse. "This isn't over," he muttered to the sheriff, low enough for only him to hear. But the law officer, tired of being an instrument of injustice, merely shrugged. "Perhaps it's time for it to be over, Colonel." One by one, the gunmen and thugs began to retreat. Noosa, not knowing where to go, remained standing, looking at her stepdaughters with a mixture of anger and regret. It was Donna Zefa who approached her. "The Ferreira house is still there," she said simply. "If you learn to respect these girls, perhaps you can still call that place home." 3 months passed since that day. The judge formalized Anina's guardianship to Luisa, with Seu Benedito and Donna Zefa as support tutors. The debt was renegotiated, not with the colonel, who lost interest after the scandal spread throughout the region, but with the town bank, in terms that allowed the small Ferreira property to remain in the family. Luisa and Anina returned to their original home, but not alone. Tiao accompanied them, helping to rebuild fences, fix the roof, clean the well. He didn't live there. He kept his place in the Quilombo, but visited almost daily, always bringing a small gift, a fruit, a wildflower, a talisman of carved wood. Noosa remained in the house for a time, but eventually left for the city, where she found work at the municipal school. Before leaving, she returned the box of the girl's mother's memories, which she had hidden. It was the closest to an apology she managed to offer. The colonel never bothered the family directly again, but his influence in the region diminished considerably after the story spread. The scandal led to investigations about illegal dams on his lands, and several small farmers united to sue for damages. The water from the stream began to flow freely again, bringing life to the dried lands. On a September afternoon, when the first rains began to green the Caatinga, Luisa was sitting on the porch, watching Anina play in the yard with other children from the Quilombo, who came regularly to visit. The girl ran healthy and strong, her rag doll tied to her back like a child carried by its mother, the way she had learned from the Quilombola women. Tiam arrived on horseback, bringing seedlings for the garden they were cultivating together. He dismounted unhurriedly and came to sit beside her. For a time, they just observed the children playing, the sound of their laughter mixing with the wind that shook the leaves of the huazero tree in the yard. "Donna Zefa sent this for you," he finally said, handing over a small cloth bundle. Luisa opened it carefully. It was a necklace of red seeds and wooden beads with a small carved pendant, a horse. "She said it's to remember where we came from and where we can go," explained Tiao, his gaze meeting hers. Luisa smiled, placing the necklace around her neck. "And where can we go?" she asked, her voice as soft as the breeze. He looked at the horizon, then back at her. "Wherever we want, as long as we're together." It wasn't a request, nor a promise. It was a certainty, built day by day, gesture after gesture. Their hands met in the space between the porch benches, fingers intertwining.